This month on All Hands Television, we look at the history and culture of fitness, MAs train at Lackland Air Force Base, and we look back 40 years to the battle for Hue City. Now your host, MC1 Matt Oldham.
The Navy is proud to say that sailors are a genuine reflection of American society, and recently it's been more popular to look at the health of American society. No doubt there are messages out there that claim Americans as a culture are getting fatter, lazier, and less healthy. Whether that's true or not, one thing is certain. We will always have physical fitness standards in the Navy because our jobs, our mission, and our shipmates depend on each of us to stay fit. Of course, different communities have specific standards, and different platforms bring specific opportunities. PT, good for you, good for me, right? Well, at least that's what you've heard at some point in your Navy career. And it's a simple equation. Stay in standards, and you get to stay in the Navy. Good for everyone involved. But if staying in standards was so easy, why would the CNO have to mandate the frequency of our PT? Surely we all would stay in shape if left to our own devices. Well, the problem is, physical fitness is much too important to the Navy's mission to be left to chance, to just hope everyone does the right thing.
Palms in, fingers out.
There's no question that some communities are known for their physical readiness. Special Operations community, for example, takes an almost religious approach to staying fit.
I mean, you need to be able to swim and run and, lift your body weight.
If there was any doubt about physical readiness being necessary to the overall mission, one only needs to look at how the sailors of Naval Special Warfare Command stay fit. 1, 2, 3. So what about a group of sailors, not yet a full crew, whose ship isn't even expected to join the fleet for another year? For these future plank owners, physical training is the perfect opportunity to begin that oh-so-important team building, setting the tone for future crews throughout the ship's service.
Well, if you believe in the concept of healthy body, healthy mind, everything starts right out here on the track. We get people physically fit, then they take that energy with them. The teamwork and camaraderie we build out here on the field, that teamwork and camaraderie carries over in the work center.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
And just a soldier march, just on your own, get the hip flexors loose.
Morale, Welfare, and Recreation has a program for crews already on board carriers and large deck amphibs. It's a different take on staying fit. Civilians are attached to ships in port or at sea, training, mentoring, and preaching fitness.
And begin.
There was a need to take fitness to the next level.
There we go. Two more. Come on.
Having a fit boss or certified professional, fitness professional on board is pretty much the next level, and it's the extension of the tool of the shore. That way when a sailor leaves home, there's no break or interruption in the service he gets, and the education, and the tools and the resources he has. That way, that sailor can be just as fit at sea and underway as what he can be when he's back on his shore base and installation.
And stop. Switch.
We all know of the effects of the fitness physically, but also what it does to your work. It includes, improves your work performance, less sick days, and the morale, which is a big thing when we're out to sea. So I really think a couple of the biggest things is the morale and the ability to do your job better.
Here we go.
And even though these training sessions are mandatory for some, sailors seem to respond well to the opportunity for a more hands-on approach.
I love working out, I love being in the gym.
Just about any question you ask him, he's got it covered.
There are a lot of options, and you can get as much help as you need.
The instructors we have now are absolutely incredible, and I enjoy going.
Just seeing the guys, the performance, seeing them able to pass the PRT when the time do come around and know that you had a part of it, it's a wonderful feeling.
Nevertheless, there are still some challenges of working out on a ship underway.
Best you can. I know we're in a tight space.
First of all, we have time constraints and space constraints. I mean, we're on a ship not in a gym, a traditional gym setting. So there's constantly aircraft being moved, GQ, and other types of events that go on a ship. So there's always going to be challenges there.
And if it isn't always easy to maintain a regular workout regimen on surface ships, what about the sub community?
PT on a submarine is one of the biggest challenges that we have, without a doubt. Does everybody have an opportunity to work out 3 days a week? It really depends on the ship schedule, you know, and we might be doing some things that, you know, you're not going to operate those things. You know, if we're, you know, there are times that we would have to secure that equipment.
Although it may seem difficult at times to stay on target with PT, there is another important element of physical training that often gets overlooked by even the most healthy of us. The choices we make in our diet also directly affect our physical readiness.
Education about nutrition and what proper food will provide regarding energy levels needs to be expressed. The message needs to get out there that you're going to perform at your best if you eat well, and you're going to crash if you want to live on sugar, fast food, or minimal food intake.
So the only justification for staying fit shouldn't just be because the Navy requires us to. Personnel from top brass to junior sailors have found it a rewarding policy.
Having that routine every morning or every midday, whenever you do it, where you get physical exercise in, has taken me through all my leadership challenges, taken me through stress at the Naval Academy when I was growing up as a midshipman. It's taken me through every success and every failure I've had as a leader.
Maybe sometimes rewarding for different reasons.
I love feeling good about myself, keep myself in shape, staying attractive.
For the Naval Media Center, I'm Petty Officer Matt Oldham. Don't forget, you can expect to start seeing the new Navy-wide PT uniforms this spring. Another community whose fitness is integral to the mission is the MAs. Sergeant Phil Grondin traveled to Lackland Air Force Base to see what's new in the way the Navy trains Masters at Arms. That's coming up after the break.
Mission here in Japan is to protect our country's national interests and assets in this theater.
It's a great place to work, great place to train.
Nowhere else in the Navy can you go and operate like we do here in Forward Deployed Naval Forces.
And we're always training and we're always ready to respond.
We're the battle group that's probably going to get there first.
Overseas duty can improve your opportunity for advancement. Check with your detailer or career counselor.
Makes me feel proud that I'm serving my country.
Did you ever consider how a motorcycle helmet can save a life? It's all in the layers. The outer shell is made of a material that spreads out the force of impact. Below that, a liner cushions your head during an accident. The padding under the liner holds the helmet in the correct position, and the chin strap keeps it in place so it can do its job. The designers did all the hard work. All you have to do is wear it.
When charting your Navy career, there are a lot of high-tech tools available to keep you on course. But your journey might also begin with a low-tech approach, by simply opening a book. The Navy Professional Reading Program has 60 titles specially chosen to broaden your horizons, from science fiction to science fact, from naval history to world history. Who knows where this voyage could take you?
The Navy's security is performed by a group of sailors dedicated to ensuring the Navy's security posture in a post-9/11 world. Sailors destined for the Master at Arms raid are trained at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. Today's Master at Arms training goes beyond speeding tickets and parking infractions.
The events of 9/11 changed the world. It changed America and changed the Navy's security posture.
I am committed to excellence in the fair treatment of all.
Since then, the Master at Arms rate has grown to include more than 9,000 sailors. These sailors are tasked with providing protection for the Navy. Roughly 6,000 of them perform traditional law enforcement duties aboard ships and on shore installations.
9/11 impacted the Master at Arms rate a great deal. Prior to 9/11, we were more law enforcement centric. What we primarily trained on was law enforcement activities. After 9/11, we had to change our focus to where we became more anti-terrorism and force protection centric.
The goal of the anti-terrorism force protection training exercise is to get the sailors to think.
The exercises here are both. They're real world, based on real world events, and also we have a little bit of creativity so we can tailor them to the students so we can have them think. So they're not just always reacting, they're actually looking around and figuring out what could happen and better ways to position themselves and to counter any kind of threats or whatever the incident is.
And what's your business on base today?
Well, I was going on leave, but the CEO called me back on, and I've just got to report to him real fast.
We use the scenarios to have the students go from a point where they have absolutely no idea of what's happening in a crawl stage, where we actually help them through some of the scenarios.
Okay, but make sure, try to give us a ham signals in case you don't.
And they go to a walk stage where they're basically on their own. We give them a little bit of guidance, but not a whole lot, until finally a run stage where they're on their own.
As the Navy's security requirements change, so do the topics students are taught at the school.
Well, the curriculum has changed quite a bit. When I came through here back in 1993, we talked a lot more about actual law enforcement. After 9/11, we transitioned obviously to more force protection. Training the students to get ready for anything that could happen to them, a little more of the unexpected.
Large caliber weapons are now part of the MA arsenal.
Prior to 9/11, the courses of fire, there was actually just 9mm M16 and shotgun. With the new anti-terrorism requirements that have come out, we've actually accelerated that to now where we teach crew-served weapons. We've actually implemented the M60, M240 training into our course.
Firearms simulation was incorporated into the weapons training package.
And to the students, they take it as a big video game, but what it is it's a simulator that allows us, without bringing live ammunition to the environment, to the teaching environment, it gives them opportunity to feel the actual recoil on the weapon, see where rounds are hitting, where they're actually placing the rounds, and it gives them a hands-on where they can feel as if they're actually there. They're actually on the range. They see the targets they're going to be shooting at, they can feel the weapon, the recoil, the actual, hear the rounds going off. It gives them the environment that they're going to be in when they're actually on the range.
They're off to the side, right? They're not lining it straight.
The MA arsenal also contains non-lethal weapons such as OC spray and batons. Students need to know how to function in an OC environment.
This training is 100% realistic compared to what they're going to see out in the fleet. From the OC spraying to the baton, all the strikes and the takedowns, this is what we're training them to employ out in the fleet. Down! It's a confidence course. What we do is we're showing the trainees that they not only can spray somebody and how it affects the person they're spraying, but if it happens that they get contaminated during the struggle, that they can actually fight through and get the suspect in custody, and they're not going to end up dying.
Put your feet, cross your feet, right in the back.
Put your knees where they belong up. That ain't a proper armbar. Come on, yeah, you can. Put that knee where it belongs.
It's letting them know that just because they're sprayed, that it's not the end of the world, that they can actually have the power to fight through it and accomplish the mission to get home safe.
The school's overall objective is simple.
Well, basically what we want these students to leave here with is a heightened sense of confidence in what they're doing and their abilities to do it. We want them to know that when they go out there, they have the training to succeed and to function as Master at Arms out in the fleet.
For the Naval Media Center, I'm Sergeant Phil Grondin.
If you would like to learn more about Master at Arms training, visit the Naval Expeditionary Command website. Before we break, here's a different look at the MA training at Lackland Air Force Base. It's in the March All Hands magazine, as well as stories about Africa Partnership Station and USS Sampson.
In the March issue of All Hands magazine, we'll introduce you to the crew of USS Sampson as they bring the Navy's newest ship online. We'll tell you about several Navy units who've deployed to Africa, training with military service members of other countries, focusing on maritime security threats. And then we'll introduce you to the Master at Arms rating and see how their jobs changed after the attack on USS Cole. All Hands, your Navy, your magazine.
And now a glimpse through the portal of Navy and Marine Corps history.
The flag raising of Iwo Jima is one of the most recognized photographs of World War II. This historic moment was also captured on 16mm film by Marine Corps Sergeant Bill Gnaust. Once shown to the public in newsreels nationwide, the flag raising was successful in lifting the spirits of a war-weary home front. Sadly, Sergeant Gnaust did not live to see any of the footage he filmed during the battle. 9 days after the flag raising, Gnaust put down his camera due to poor weather and picked up his rifle. While fighting in the honeycomb of caves, he was shot and killed by the enemy. Today, each time this film clip is shown, his memory lives on. He immortalized on film his nation's fight for freedom and Marine Corps honor. Marine Sergeant Bill Gnaust, one of the many heroes of the Battle for Iwo Jima.
"40 years ago, Marines fought in some of the most brutal street fighting of the Vietnam conflict. The battle for Hue City made Marine Corps history. 2,500 Marines went up against roughly 10,000 North Vietnamese Army regulars and members of the Viet Cong. And the Marines prevailed. Hue City wasn't just a battle, a trivia question, or a curiosity to historians. Many real-life lessons were learned in Hue City. Retired Marine General Ron Christmas fought in the battle in 1968, and he described the urban combat as the dirtiest of all kinds of fighting, and how warriors found themselves eyeball to eyeball with the enemy. Sergeant Phil Grondin recently spoke with General Christmas and visited the Urban Warfare Training Center at 29 Palms, California, to find out how Marines today are still learning from lessons that are now 4 decades old.
أنا ما أحطك يمين الخطر. قل له هاي الحكاية منك مقبولة بس أنت من تسجيل في الشيء.
This Iraqi is angry with the Americans. He's afraid these Marines have damaged his vehicle. In Iraq, this could be a potentially dangerous situation. Fortunately for the Marines, it's all practice. This is Mojave Viper in 29 Palms, California, where Marines train for the deserts of the Middle East. Today's urban combat consists of searching vehicles and houses and interacting with the local populace. But it wasn't always this way.
During Fallujah, I mean, the battle, who knows where the battle is. You make entry to a house, you clear the first few rooms. In that back room, there could be that guy sitting with the RPK just waiting to light you up.
Target! Before Fallujah, there was Hue City. In the mid-1960s, the Vietnam War was predominantly a rural conflict. Marines were mostly fighting a guerrilla army in knee-deep rice paddies and jungle mud in what were counter-insurgency missions. On January 31st, 1968, the Tet Offensive changed the face of the Vietnam War. During Tet, the Vietnamese Lunar New Year celebration, the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong guerrilla fighters launched a coordinated attack throughout the southern part of the country. The enemy had invaded the largest cities in South Vietnam.
When we first got into Hue City, first got into the fight, hotel company was to seize the public health complex so that we could provide fires in support of Fox companies so that they could take the tough objective of the Treasury. I had fortunately attached a 106 recoilless rifle. I salivate every time I think about that weapon. Big old anti-tank weapon.
The Marines were trying to cross the street.
From behind me, the Lance Corporal says, "Skipper, I know how to do this." He said, "You know, I'll roll my gun right down the steps here, this Hue University. We'll turn my gun. We'll fire that round. Sir, you know how big the round is. They'll pull down their heads. Sir, you know how much backblast there is. You can run the whole company across the street if you want to under that backblast." But you see just what that Lance Corporal said. That round struck in around that machine gun. They closed up and ran. The backblast was such we ran an entire platoon across the street. That's called Lance Corporal ingenuity and PFC power.
Prior to January 1968, The last time Marines fought in an urban setting was in the streets of Seoul during the Korean War. In Vietnam, imagination was one of the best weapons in a commander's arsenal.
We all have good doctrine, and you must understand that doctrine. You've got to be doctrinally sound, but you should never be doctrinally bound. What you need to do is you need to use your imagination, and you need to adapt to the situation you're in. Let's just take the 106 recoilless rifle. That rifle, that's an anti-tank weapon. But look what we used it for, and it became very effective.
The lessons of Hue only reinforce the principles of urban warfare.
Well, first of all, I think we learned a great deal from Hue City. We didn't do it very well. I mean, the young Marines, they did a heck of a job. But from an operational level, we didn't do the things that really are required to be done. There are three enduring principles in the fight for an urban area. The first is you always isolate that urban area, or isolate a portion of it, depending where you're going. We never did that. Neither we nor the North Vietnamese ever accomplished that. And it cost both of us. The second is you select your entry point into the urban area. In our case, we were forced to go to a specific entry point. The third is the selection of how you're going to take the fight. Our decision, or General Cheatham's and others' decisions, were to do it block by block, house by house, room by room, which turned out to be the right decision.
These tactics were used during the urban fighting in Fallujah, Iraq.
Fallujah 2, they did it right. The city was isolated. They had a diversion. They had branches and sequels developed. And as they went into that city, they went into it exceptionally well. And they took it down, in my judgment, as a city should be taken down.
It came down to Fallujah. It was just a direct assault. I mean, big assault since the Battle of Hue City.
We just found a huge cache. It's like 50 120 rounds, various rockets, other mortars, and mortar systems.
We knew this is what every Marines came in the infantry to do, just to go down and take down that enemy. And with our training, as you know, it was a little rough at times due to not knowing that we're going to be doing a big assault like this.
And I think anybody who has fought in the urban fight would agree. I think the young Marines who have fought in the Fallujah, it's very, very intense. It's very stressful. There's this tremendous debris, this tremendous din, this noise. There's dust and all the like, and your fight is always close. But once you close with the enemy, I mean, it's a 35-meter fight.
The basic skills of room clearing, and with that did help, but as a big picture, overall, we adapted and overcame.
Adapting to the changing face of the battlefield in Iraq is precisely what is taking place at 29 Palms, California. Mojave Viper is the Marine Corps' last training stop before units deploy to Iraq. As the battlefield changes, so does Mojave Viper.
Now with Mojave Viper nowadays, again, the war is always ever changing. Here you get better opportunities to train a little bit longer. You have a little bit better instruction, more in-depth instruction, because it's always changing.
We'll slowly creep up. Remember, we got a lot of gear on, so we gotta be a little bit methodical, and at the same time,
to talking to the locals, integrating the Iraqi security forces in there, getting more in depth, getting the Marines to learn a little bit more culture.
Urban combat training is conducted at a special range complex in 29 Palms. It comes complete with Iraqi towns and Iraqi role players.
Americans like stay overnight.
This is Mojave Viper in 29 Palms. Did this last year before we went to Iraq, and it was some real good training before we left for Iraq, in the sense that it taught us basically how the people interact with us and how we're supposed to interact with the people over there. And it seems to have changed a lot, which leads me to suspect that, you know, everything's kind of changing in Iraq, how we're trying to turn the country back over to the Iraqi people, which is a good thing, and never really had that last year.
The key thing that we do is provide a realistic, accurate, and relevant training venue for Exercise Force Marines preparing for OIF. No two Mojave Vipers are ever the same, and as a result, Marines who came through Mojave Viper a year ago that are coming through again are going to see a different exercise.
Earlier urban combat missions, such as Way City and Fallujah, saw Marines fighting aggressively from house to house. As the fight has now moved from cities to small towns, urban combat has evolved into interacting with Iraqi locals while Marines search for insurgents.
What Tet of 68 and Way did was it scared people about urban conflict. And the nation, both the Army and the Marine Corps, the nation as a whole, went into urban denial. And for almost 10 years, we were in urban denial. We're not going to fight in an urban area. Well, obviously, that's an insane thought. One only has to look at the littorals. One only has to look at the world today. You're always going to fight in an urban area. Now, do I hope that some of the lessons that we wrote about in Way helped them in that fight? I am. I hope they did. I think they did. But I'm so very proud that they know how to fight in the urban area. You know, our young men and women today are fighting continually in Iraq, in urban areas, and they do it well.
The Marines and Corpsmen at Way fought valiantly. They relied on training and conditioning to persevere. The MAs in our Navy stay in shape to perform their mission. Next month, All Hands Television moves from personal fitness to planetary fitness as we acknowledge Earth Day and look at how one Navy region views its role as a steward of the environment. For All Hands Television, I'm Petty Officer Matt Oldham. Thanks for watching.